Yeah, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
I've got my cup of tea, and
Brilliant.
I've actually got my trademark.
I love
I heart
spreadsheets.
spreadsheets. I don't know if is that the right way for you, or is it negative?
No, I can see it. I can see it.
Yay!
That's great. I have one similar downstairs, but it says I heart month end.
Yay! The difference is my mug is not lying.
No. You called me out. What gave it away? Oh God, Christ.
Cool.
Okay, so right, yeah. So we'll just start then. So why don't you tell us all a little bit about your backstory? You know, how you started in accountancy and finance. Did you start from there, or did you do something beforehand? So yeah, you just take it away.
It was, yeah, I had quite an interesting journey towards working in finance. I was working as an IT trainer for the best part of 15 years in adult education, commercial training, and offender learning. And I was just I got to the point where I was just constantly doing the same same thing. And what I love training, and I think that will always be my first passion. I was looking at my future and thinking, well, crumbs, I've got a quarter of a century till I retire. Am I going to spend the entire time just doing this? Oh, no, I don't want to. So I decided to have a look around at alternative careers, and I'd actually done a few different things, sort of financing over the years. So one was running a big financial audit process for an American software company,
Wow.
and that was I did that for 3.5 years, and that was great. I really enjoyed it because I'm a real stickler for the tiny little details. So that kind of thing really kind of gelled with what I was doing. And then I was also teaching level 1 bookkeeping whilst I was in offender learning. And that was just literally the cash book and how to reconcile the bank and the petty cash book. So it wasn't really that much, but it gave me a kind of flavor for what was going on. I was also helping my partner, I think at the time, who was a treasurer of a society. And we were trying to track down some anomaly. I can't remember what it was. The horror has been expunged from my traumatic brain. That was a real mess because it's one of those things. It's actually very straightforward when you know how, and you have to have a logical mind. But it actually gave me good training when I was working in practice to all those hours chasing clients for receipts and yeah, they've got this thing at the bank, come on, tell me what it's about. Oh yeah, I'll get around to it. So I started, a friend of mine actually was doing the AAT qualification via her college in Bristol, and I was like, oh, I thought you had to start at chartered level, and I didn't really sort of understand anything about how the qualifications worked or anything like that. So then I discovered that they actually offered AAT at my own local college. So I signed up, did the level 2 and level 3 via the college via self-funding to do that. And it was a fantastic environment. I know different people have different experiences of college. Some people say the tutors are, oh, here's a bunch of worksheets, just get on with it. But for me, they were really switched on, really passionate, and a fantastic way of explaining things. And in fact,
Good.
in our level 3, they got the Medium College of the Year, Medium Training Provider of the Year award from
Oh,
the
wow.
AAT. So it's like, yeah,
That's brilliant.
but then sadly I couldn't carry on to do the level 4 because I was self-funding, and basically my savings had run out. And at that point I was working a couple of days a week for a sole trader accountant, and he was a lovely guy in his 70s who's still doing everything paper-based. So he needed somebody to come in and just put everything on a computer to submit to HMRC. So I started to learn a lot about actual tax returns, so sole traders, a couple of partnerships, a few limiteds, and some VAT returns as well. And he wanted to hand the business over to me and I sort of struggled on gamely for a little while. At this point, I was level 3 qualified, and of course, the bookkeeping side of things was absolutely fine. That was completely in my sphere of reference. But there's no way I could complete any of the limited accounts. Just didn't even know where to start. Things like the writing down allowances and some of the different aspects of actually submitting sole trader returns and things like that. And so, you know, I could sort of do it if I crossed my fingers and hope nobody was looking over my shoulder. But that's not what I'm in. That's not, you know, when the AAT bang on so much about the ethical principles, they really, you know, they come from a point of recognizing when people have messed up. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize. It's, oh, cool, I'm going to do all this in a level 3. And then it pops up again in level 4, and you're like, oh, more of this. But when you're actually faced with the prospect of, you know, breaching your principles of integrity by not doing quality work, advising your clients incorrectly, that kind of thing, and some of the real life impacts that could have, I actually think, they're there for a living good reason, and we should respect them. And you know, I'm very pleased that I actually got a chance to learn about all those ethics. So, but after that, I did a role in industry. I was working for a pizza company with multiple outlets. And then, unfortunately, I got made redundant from that. And then I was working for a couple of different practices. And then just lately, I've moved back into industry, firstly with a little contract for a sort of startup. The council insourced their bin collection company. They took it back from Serco and brought it sort of to a limited company under the council's purview. So that's called a LATCO, a local authority trading company. And then after that, I'm currently working for a small human rights organisation, international human rights organisation, as a finance assistant. So,
oh wow,
I've kind of done a bit of everything. I know, it's a bit crazy.
It's funny though, because at first, before I started the YouTube channel, before I started talking to a lot of like different accounts and networking so much, I used to think, is it just me? Because I remember back in the day thinking, right, this is the way I'm going to go, this is the path I'm going to take, and it just does not happen. It's gone the complete other way, but in a very good way. Like, none of it's been negative, but it's just
absolutely.
I'm here, and then I'm here, and then I'm here, and then I'm here. I'm like,
I describe it as like you imagine there's a room, you know, there's a whole corridor of different rooms with things like, you know, bricklaying and accounting and law, being a lawyer, and okay, I go into that room and get the qualification, and then I'm that job. So you open the accounting door, and then there's another 2. Yeah, one says working in industry, and one says working in practice, and you're like, oh, okay. So you open one, and you kind of peek around it, and then it says taxation, financial accounting, management accounting, and this and that. And you're like, whoa, hang on a sec. How do I know which to pick? And any one of the doors you go through could be really good for you, or it could be a bad fit, and you don't really know. No. And I think, you know, that's why I like the AAT accounting qualification, because it gives you a bit of the money management and a bit of the financial accounting, and then you can really sort of work out where you fit. But it's a huge business, and I really had no idea, absolutely no clue when I first started.
I mean, like, now have you finished AAT level 4? Or are you going to do that at some point in the future?
I'm crawling my way through it. Crawling desperately to the finish line. The job I'm doing at the moment is part-time, and it's a fixed term contract for 12 months. So I really want to be shot. I'm halfway through. I've done 3 units. So I want to do the other 3 and get them done once and for all. Because I think, you know, my poor partner, his nerves are shredded, but employers have the chartered exams for graduates only, because you do need to have a really good solid understanding of how to study by yourself, or even if it's in small groups. If you've not done that and then you're just springboarded straight into a level 4 qualification,
it's a lot.
That's huge. That's big. And,
it's a lot. I know. I actually failed my first ACA exam. I didn't fail with my AAT. I found that it was difficult, but I just managed to get through it. And we didn't get marks back then. It was just you passed or you failed, so you never knew how you did. And yeah, that first exam when I failed, oh, my world came down. I only failed by a couple of marks or a mark, but I just didn't know how to study. And that sounds really daft, but I didn't know. And there was only a certain amount of time to do things in. And unless you've been shown that before, or they give you that study technique, it's just a whole different world, isn't it?
I think you're absolutely right. Knowing how to study seems to be such an oddity. When I first started university, I was actually 22, and I left school at 16 with a bunch of GCSEs and didn't really know what to do, and then sort of floundered around until, by some sheer luck, I managed to get into university without A levels. So I actually got several how to study books out of the library, and I read through them, and I really didn't get any kind of guidance on how to apply that to an academic setting. But looking back, some of the things that I picked up were actually really good for this kind of studying, where you're building units of knowledge one on another. So the big one, I think, really, that I took away all those years ago was don't waste stress. If you're the sort of person that feeds off a deadline, and you're fine noodling along, la 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 la, and then you get to the night before, and bang, you start working. That's fine. Deal with it. Roll with it. Don't look at the people who got their essays in 2-3 weeks ago and be resentful of them. What's the point? Is it going to affect your grade? No, it isn't. And the same with the people who get their work done ages in advance. Don't look at the people who are slacking off and just kind of leaving everything to the last minute as being lazy blighters, because they're processing information in a very different way. Don't 100%. Waste the stress. Just focus on your own thing.
Everybody learns differently.
This is your way through it, and that's the one that works for you. So learn that, be happy with it.
Do you know what? I genuinely, hand on heart, I can say it must have taken me 12 years to master how I learn. And that, when I think about that, I think it's not taken that long, but it genuinely has. And I've learned over that time. I'm a very visual learner, and writing notes down and rewriting them in a very pretty format doesn't work for me. I don't learn. I have to see something in front of me and watch somebody do it, and then I can re-engineer it myself if I have to. And go back. But writing streams of notes out, writing notes down, it doesn't work. Not for me anyway. So that's
definitely my way, though. I write reams of notes, and they do go in because I refer to them a hell of a lot. It's not just stuff that I'm writing on paper and then that just gets thrown in the bin. I refer to it all the time, and in fact, I've got a little box of index cards that I made, and just in my last job, I needed to do something with depreciation. So I got my little box out, found my notes, bang. So I could get to the information absolutely quickly. And, so it really is different strokes for different folks. And I really think it's important for people not to get hung up on, not to get hung up on how other people work that isn't working for you, and also not to flog a dead horse. If it isn't working for you, try something else. There are all sorts of different methods.
And the one thing I think I stress this a lot in my YouTube, my Facebook group, but I know the other groups do this too, that there genuinely is no stupid question. If you are struggling, ask. And if somebody again next to you gets it, it doesn't matter, because that's not affecting you and your career in the long run. If you personally do not get it, you have to ask and ask until it's told to you in a certain way that you understand, so you can apply it. And ask 1,000 questions if you have to. It doesn't matter at all. Nobody's judging you because you don't learn.
We're all learners. at one point or another, and how is it wrong to be a learner?
It's not, and I'm still learning every day. There's something I come across and I go, really? Is that why? And then something clogs in my mind and I go, oh, right, that's why. Oh, okay, So yeah, there's absolutely no shame there. What sort of things are you doing now in your current role? So, I mean, in terms of the role itself, are you doing things like,
It's sort of basic bookkeeping. So it's the purchase and sales ledgers and managing the credit card and bank rec. And at this point, I've only been in position for just on my third week. So there's still quite a lot that I need to learn. And one of the things is the multi-currency aspect of it.
Oh,
so
yes.
they have transactions in euros, pounds, and dollars. So that's something that I'm sort of having to get to grips with, because the software we use, QuickBooks, when you create a transaction, all the reporting is done in dollars. But if you create a transaction in, say, pounds, then it will give you the spot rate for that particular transaction to transfer and translate from the pounds into the dollars. And of course, that doesn't always tally with what the bank has actually done. So there's, I gather there's going to be quite a lot of catching up and mopping up these different bits that fall through the cracks. So, it says it's £500 here, but actually it's £459.32, and therefore, what are you doing with the rest of the money?
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot that I think I've got to learn in that sense, which I'm really looking forward to.
It's funny though, because as I say, when you see something new for the first time, like the foreign exchange, I remember when I first saw it in real life, not in a textbook, I was terrified. I thought, I know I've read all of this information about what to do, but in reality, I don't know where this goes on the TV and what I need to do with it and what's the spot rate about and all of this. So it's really interesting when you get into it and have to do it yourself. It seems to open up this whole avenue of, oh, wow, great.
The thing for me is actually trying to remember which way, when you're converting, what the value is going to be in the other currency. And if I just look at the two figures, like for instance, if it's £500 in pounds, is that likely to be 450 euros, or is it likely to be 550 euros?
Yeah.
And if I just get a sense of the numbers and which way up they go, sort of, so to speak, then I can understand a lot more. But then I'm actually quite slow when it comes to certain arithmetic tasks, like do I divide, do I multiply? Help. So it's
not just you.
Sneak up on it gradually until it's in there,
I'll tell you a little tip when it comes to the foreign exchange items. If you've got if you have a column that is your GBP, and then have another column that's like your dollars or your euros or whatever it might be, then you can quite quickly, once you've reconciled the banks, or once you've got it to the point where there is that difference, you can clearly see from there, where does that lie on what side, and is that going to be a gain or a loss? And then you can go back to say HMRC's rates and do it that way. So yeah, I've always found that bit to be a bit more useful, because I am visual. Again, I've got to see it and go, right, I know now, I get it.
Yeah, I actually asked on one of the bookkeeping forums that I'm on, hey, I'm going to do this. Is there anything that I need to kind of be aware of? And the gains and losses were one of the things they picked up on immediately. So, then I'm translating that back into double entry and thinking, well, okay, if it's a gain, then it's probably an income, and therefore it's going to show up on the profit and loss. And therefore, what will be the opposite side? If that's a debit, then what's the credit going to be? And the whole time I'm tying it back to double entry. And I find that very reassuring, that I know that I'm on the right track if I can work my way through a given transaction like that and see it that way. And that's actually one of the reasons. I know loads of people are like, oh, QuickBooks, it's horrible. But with every single transaction on QuickBooks, you can actually bring up the journal behind it. So you can see the double entry. which I love. I absolutely love about that. So if I see anything that I'm a little bit unsure about, I'll just pull up a previous transaction, have a look at the journal behind it, and then I've got that double entry that I understand. Yeah, of course, right. Of course it's going to be this because it's a that and da da da.
So that I've worked with systems before where you don't get that, and it is a nightmare, especially if you're on an audit and a client's got a bespoke system, and you're looking at it thinking, this is not giving me the information that I need at all. I'm going to have to do that further. Christ.
And everybody goes on about Xero, and Xero doesn't have that feature. And I actually found I was struggling a lot trying to work out how it was thinking. And it was only when I'd used QuickBooks that I understood Xero, because of the double entry aspect, which is kind of mad really when you think about it. But I think we all need our own little key into knowledge.
Yeah.
Once you've got that key, whatever shape it is, and you know how to, work with the knowledge you have and apply it to that new situation.
It's finding that 100%.
Yeah.
And you'll find that you'll find this yourself anyway, but newer students, you start hearing as you get through your career that, you prefer a certain type of software because it aligns to the way that you think and the way that you do things. There's certain things that are similar across them all because they have to be. But, people prefer Xero, or people prefer QuickBooks, or they prefer Sage, or Iris is another one. It's just finding what really works with your sort of way of thinking, I find.
Yeah, definitely. And I think in terms of the software, obviously I have a background in IT training, so I'm always looking at software critically. And one of the things that absolutely drives me up the wall is with QuickBooks and Xero, they both have this advisor certification. That's to resell the product to your clients if you say work in practice. It's absolutely useless if you're trying to learn the software in terms of using it. And if anybody out there is, a QuickBooks user and they've ever come across a bank rec that's been mangled by QuickBooks or by a user or whatever, they'll understand what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
There is nothing in the advisor certification that tells you how to dig yourself out of that hole. There's nothing in the advisor certification for Xero that explains that the account transactions tab in the bank rec, that's your cash book. And then you've got the bank, there's no actual bank reconciliation that you do that's a formal process in Xero. And it doesn't explain that in the advisor certification. And I've railed against QuickBooks and Xero lots of times, as I say, this is not good enough. You're expecting finance professionals to sell these software for you. But on the other hand, it's the blind leading the blind, because if I can't tell my clients how to fix that bank rec problem in QuickBooks, who cares if it's cheaper than Xero? With both, and it puts egg on my face, because as a finance professional, I'm supposed to be able to tell them this stuff.
I think this is an interesting point, and this is something I've come across recently myself, because I'm currently taking that Xero certification. I've used Xero in the past, but I've never done this certification, and it was it was a fair amount. And again, once you've used a few of them, they tend to all look near enough the same. There's things in different places, but overall, they're not too bad. But like you said there, if you're setting up a client from scratch, the fine and dandy ho, because this is how you set up, this is how you link your bank, this is how you put on opening balances or etc. But it's, what about those clients where they've been on here for a while? You're picking up the books and what you found is not quite what it should be. And there's reconciling items, expense accounts, things on the balance sheet that should have been in the P&L. Just a few examples. But there's nothing there. And it's like, I know, obviously, like from my standpoint, having done this for like going into my 13th year now at this point, I know how to do double entry. I'm well versed in it. However, I need to know how the software works and learn it in order to tell my client, this is what you need to do. Do it like this, and this is the outcome.
I see the value of the advisor certification in terms of giving you a really good understanding of all the features of the software, but it doesn't tell you how to use it. And I think that's a huge loss. The software companies are just missing that point. And I don't want to single out Xero and QuickBooks, because Sage is just as bad. they're not off the hook, and you know, a few other finance software companies, but it's a whistle-stop tour of all the features, and that's fantastic. But it's not something that you can use as a professional to actually be able to use the software. And
no, but there is also, I'd say, on top of this, and again, it's just something I've come across recently, that again, as it's an accountant's dream really for your client to use something like QuickBooks or Xero Sage, because it makes your life a little bit easier if it works and everything's done, let's say, to the T, which sometimes you find is not. However, again, what the point they're missing is, you know, these additional features that you can use in these software programs, they're not spoken about in a certain way that makes the accountant aware that these things are available to your client, to then say, oh, okay, you've got a load of products over there. Have you got product pricing? Are you using Xero for that, say? Or are you using Xero for project analysis? Did you know it can do that? And it's like those additional things. It's like, if you just spent more time on that, then again, the whole system could be used a little bit better. But yeah, there's a lot of improvements that could be made there. I completely agree with that. Yeah,
definitely. I'm not quite sure how I feel about the idea of companies just being able to get the software off the shelf, set themselves up on it and get running. There are obviously some you know, quite large companies that have in-house accountants and finance assistants who can look at the software critically and get all the information on there correctly. But then there are a lot of sole traders who see the adverts for, you know, Sage or QuickBooks or Xero, and they're like, yay, it does it everything, woohoo. And they don't know the critical difference between an expense and an asset. And they're sticking things all over the place. And I worry that, you know, without the guidance of an accountant or bookkeeper behind them, that they're filing all kinds of weird tax returns and thinking, yeah, I've done it because QuickBooks tells me I can, or, you know, because Sage does it all for me or whatever. And then they get an inspection by HMRC and they're hauled over the coals. And for that matter, you know, it's not just the negatives. There's also the positives. They may not necessarily be aware that there's different accounting treatments for assets that they can do that's in their favor. So, you know, I think also the software industry, they're trying to get sales, and that's fine. But I wish they would present it in terms of speak to your accountant to find
as opposed
out
to
about
you don't need an account
and hook up with your professional advisor.
I think though, this is where that question originates, from people getting into the industry. Or, you know, I receive a lot of comments on the channel of accounting's dead, you know, you're going to be taken over by software, etc., etc. You don't need accountants, you don't need bookkeepers, you don't need tax advisors or financial specialists. And, you know, it makes me smile, these kind of questions, because that is exactly where the source is coming from. And that's like saying to somebody, everybody can use Excel. Well, you can, but did you know that by using Excel in this other way that you save yourself 5 hours of work, for instance, or that by doing it this way, all of a sudden you can identify trends, analysis, all this other bits? And did you know also in the background, there's all these different things you can claim for, or reduce your tax bill, or, you know, are you compliant? All these questions. And it's that the software doesn't do that for you. The bookkeeper or accountant or professional does that for you. So it's a key point to read. I'm glad you brought this up. Because it's been something that's been on my mind a couple of times in the last, say, month or so, from certain things I've seen. And yeah, so anyone who's watching, if you are new into the industry, no, computers are not going to overtake accountants, and it's still a very, very good career path to get into. So be rest assured.
There are so many different ways that the humans can step in, and I like to think of us as partners with the business and the client, or, you know, even if you work in industry, you know, you're not just doing a job. And you can certainly turn it into that. You can turn up, do the stuff, go home, put your feet up, you know, ignore the rest of the world for the rest of the week. But I think the real value in terms of a career comes out of being able to help people harness what their businesses are actually capable of. And that's, you know, working in practice or working in industry, the same thing applies. And the machines aren't going to be able to take that strategic overview and just say, hey, you know, did you think about doing blah? Or for that matter, the other way around, and the client or, you know, your manager says, hey, I'd really love to be able to do this. Can I, or how do I do this? And then just step in and say, okay, well, it's, you know, it's a case of doing this and doing that. So you know, my last job with the council, one of the things they wanted to do was to split out a particular area of business. And I was like, well, absolutely, you can track that in Xero as a completely separate, like a project that, you know, managing all the costs, and it has its own budget and its own blah, blah, blah. Absolutely, you can do that. That's, this is how you do it, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I think the director that I spoke to was really quite blown away that I didn't just say, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go away and see if I can find out, and then sort of never get back to him because I was embarrassed and I didn't know. So I went away, I had a look, I asked around, and I was like, yes, of course, it's that feature. I remember it from such and such, yes. And then I could go back and give him a real sort of valuable thing and say, I think the subscription that we have may not be quite the correct one, so you may need to factor in additional costs. So, you know, always taking it straight back to helping and working in partnership with either your management or the clients that you work with.
I think that, again, when I'm trying to explain the different things you can do in your career, it's very difficult to explain or put down on paper for somebody to say that you're not just going to be this person who's inputting figures and, you know, that's you in the back office, in the back room, not speaking to anybody, you know, that sort of thing. It's
down
so
in the basement,
more.
fed donuts once in a while.
That's it. Or, you know, when people bring cake into the office. It's so much more. It's really looking at information and saying, what can we do with this information? What is that information telling us? And then making decisions off the back of that, or advising, like say, CFO, CEOs of, did you know, say, you know, this particular product is the one that's making you the most sales this month. No, we didn't know that. Or did you know that actually you're now spending, you know, an additional 80k on property costs? What's causing that? Well, it's your electricity, that's, you know, or it's this, that, it's the other. It's that additional element that it just makes our job so interesting, to be honest. I get excited talking about it. See all the things you can do. It's mind-blowing, to be honest. Take your career where you want to. I think that's the fantastic thing. It's not just a one stop, that's what you're going to be doing from now on. The more you put in, the more you get out.
I think, though, on the other hand, you know, if you want to just stop where you are and enjoy the smell of the roses that are growing around you, do that. There's nothing that compels one to climb the career ladder. And I do know quite a few people that have been attracted to accounting and a variety of other careers by the salary that one can attain. And certainly you can earn some big money. But then I also know a lot of people who are reaching the end of their careers and they're like, oh, why didn't I take a step back earlier? I've got all this money. I have no energy left to enjoy my retirement. So, you know, if you can find a way of approaching your career in terms of what is good for you, step aside from the money side of things, and just look at what is good for you as a person, then that will stand you in a lot better stead than just chasing the dollars, because you know, your health can literally be at risk if you don't keep an eye on that kind of thing. And I've worked with people who literally just work for the holidays. As soon as they get their holiday time, they're off, you know, they go zipping off here and zipping off there, and I think, well, good for you, but your life is very empty if that's all that you can say about your life is that you lived in the holidays. What?
I think there's that again, you have got to be careful, because like you say, if you want to progress, with more progression comes more money, becomes more responsibilities. And like I say, you have to find that balance for you. And if you're somebody who enjoys working the hours to get that output, and you want to be FD or you want to be CFO, etc., do it. That's what you want to do it.
Yeah,
But if you are
absolutely.
happy and you want, you could work part-time hours on a very decent salary and get yourself to that point, do that. Whatever
Yeah,
makes you happy. But the point is that, like you say, you've got the option in
yeah,
this like career path to do whichever one of those you do. And again, don't look at other people. If there's a 20-year-old who is, you know, 10 times more senior than you are, it does not matter. It
yeah,
doesn't matter. Equally, the other way around, it doesn't matter. Just do what works with you, your family, your life. Don't look at anybody else. And that's,
definitely.
yeah, my final point on there. What I'll say is there any other, is there any tips or guidance that you want to share with everybody before we wrap it up?
Probably, but I can talk for Queen and Country me, so don't don't encourage me.
If you do want to get hold of Han is an administrator in it's the AAT student. I'm going to say it wrong, can't I? AAT
Yeah,
student.
AAT Students Independent Group on Facebook, and
That's it.
I'm one of the admin there.
You're
So,
very active in there, and
yeah,
for anybody
Diane, the
who's
water's lovely.
for those that are looking at Excel or who are struggling at Excel, you've got a fantastic course as well, haven't you? You've got a website with a course on there that's free.
I did my own blog basically because I was sick and tired of repeating the same answer, same question all the time. How do I do a VLOOKUP? What's a pivot table? So I actually wrote an entire Excel course, and it's specifically aimed at students who are doing the level 3 synoptic. So obviously that's going to shift a little bit when we have our new qualification, because it will be moving much more firmly into the realms of management accounting. But it's called Excel for Accounting Students as a number 4. So if you just Google for that, you're bound to get a hit, and you'll actually see me with my mug is on there.
Fantastic.
I heart spreadsheets, and I love spreadsheets.
you can feel the enthusiasm. But I will put a link to that in the description below as well, just so they've got that there, and a link to the student group as well if they've not already joined, so that awesome. They know where to find us all. But yeah, I'm going to wrap it up there just due to the time. But yeah, it's been lovely, and thank you again for sharing your story. And if at some point in the future you want to come back and talk on here, you're more than welcome. Always.
Brilliant, thank you.
All right, well, take care of yourself, Han. Hope you have a nice weekend.
And you.